and then this guy came in, and I was like, he just fell, and I was like, Pete Abrams actually got me this.
Oh,
His family loves intervention so much, and he sits on my couch.
well, with that segue there with the giant owl, welcome to Geeks Talking, the entertainment industry interview show that specializes in comics, TV, film, music, and video games. Of course, I'm your host, Kurt Sasso, as I have been for the past 7 years, because, well, I'm the only one that loves to do this stuff as much as anyone else. But we are joined today by an amazingly talented person. You've heard her on the show before because she's just that awesome. We've talked with her about Intervention Con. We are talking with her about ReGeneration Who. And if that hasn't actually piqued your interest yet, which, for shame, then you haven't been reading her Twitterverse tweets for the past however many years, because she's just that awesome in that regard.
Yeah.
We are joined today by Onezumi from, of course, Intervention, from, of course, ReGeneration Who, which is the newest convention happening in, I believe it's at, yes, Hunt Valley, Maryland, at the Hunt Valley Inn on March 27th to 29th of this month. So that's next week? No, that's the week after next. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's not this weekend, it's the next one. That's why we're all in I was saying we're all in crazy mode, getting the last stuff ready, And then when changes happen at a late date, we have to, work harder than if they were changes that would happen 6 months ago.
Of course. We've talked over the years, actually, about Intervention Con, which I still have to attend, which is in its 6th year now, I think it is now.
Yep, we're going into 6.
That's crazy.
I know, right? Because for me, it all blends together. I can't even. I'm like, remember when this happened on this one? I'm like, was that last year? No, that was the second year. I'm like, oh. Okay.
I mean, I can't even find my keys for that matter, if you ask me.
Yeah.
But now we're starting. Well, I shouldn't say we, because it's all you and Harknell there. But you guys are starting a brand new convention called ReGeneration Who. For those that don't know about it, and you've been tweeting about it for a while now, tell us what ReGeneration Who is all about.
So ReGeneration Who is just a Doctor Who convention that is going to be done with the same mindset that we've used for intervention. So that means we're going to have more innovative, obviously you see more innovative social media and attendee outreach stuff. We do some really cool things. We make videos. We feature attendees and cosplay on our site. We're trying to make it, such that everybody under the roof feels welcome, all genders, all body types, all shapes, all sizes, all people, no matter what doctor they like. That's our joke. We actually have that in the rules. We do not discriminate on any of this, including your choice of favorite doctor. And we're trying to bring a little bit of the we always want to showcase local artists and the work that our attendees do. So on our programming, you'll see there's people that are doing Raspberry Pi, Weeping Angels. That's kind of stuff that we do that comes from that intervention background. And a lot of the VIP packages features art, 3D printed Jelly Baby charms, 3D printed TARDIS lamps, art done by people in the community. Again, that harkens back to intervention and a lot of the stuff that we've built for that. So that's kind of I wanted a convention that I wanted to attend, and I'm never going to do an event that's not an event that I want to go to. So that was really our thing. We knew that we wanted to, with intervention, have a fan event that would complement it, because intervention is very heavily educational. We always knew in the 5th year there would be a second fan event that would be a counterpoint, and Harknell and I were talking, and I'm like, I don't know what I would do, because anime cons, there's so many of them and they do a wonderful job. There's so many sci-fi cons, they do a wonderful job. What can I bring something unique to that I actually like? Yeah. And we were just like, yeah, the only thing I really am disappointed about is the fact that there's no Doctor Who convention around and I can't go to... What? I was like, there's our answer. Because my husband does not fly. So, I mean, he could possibly fly, but he doesn't like to. So we tend to stay in the area. And so then ReGeneration Who was born. I went to my intervention staff and I pulled them into small meetings at one of our parties, and I said, this is my idea. Would you would you basically back me up on this?
Mhm.
People flipped out. They were screaming, they were kicking their feet, and because I wasn't sure it was going to work. I was like, I need to have a certain number of my staff with me on this. I can't do it myself,
Mhm.
and it worked. And it's a bit of a learning curve to deal
Mhm.
with actors as opposed to local artists, but it's something that I feel we've really risen to. And we're actually working behind the scenes to make automated systems to kind of make these easier, to all these negotiations and processes easier in the next year. So that's a very long-winded way of saying we're making a really cool Doctor Who convention that we would want to go to, and we want to make sure the attendees are always a part of that conversation, because it really is for the fans. And in many ways, the actors are fans too. If you talk to them, they really are. So.
It's interesting. I've only run into one of the doctors, and that was Colin Baker, actually, Doctor Number
Mm.
4, I believe he is. I wouldn't say run into him per se, as to I passed by his table and it was still packed with a variety of ages of fans and everything. That was at Motor City Comic Con in Detroit. Well, I should say Novi or wherever it's located. I forget. Either way, the age range of fans that love Doctor Who varies from like the really young to the extremely old, and that's wonderful to see that a fandom such as Doctor Who is still loved for throughout all of these years, no matter what decade of Doctor you started with.
Yeah, I was talking with some reporters for the Baltimore Sun, and they were asking, what's the deal with this fandom? And I said, well, it started a couple years before Star Trek, but it actually has a very deep audio drama, which is canon, the Big Finish audio dramas. So in many ways, the scope of work, I don't. I would hazard a guess it might be even bigger than Star Trek as far as what's out there for the fans to really engage with. And a lot of the people that do the Big Finish audio dramas were fans that just did fanfic, that submitted stuff, and they got it accepted as canon. So that's something that I feel fuels a lot of the really positive fandom that this fandom certainly has. So yeah, it's phenomenal, and I find a lot of parents are showing the classic Who to their kids as a family thing, and then they have new Who as well. So it really is a multi-generational family thing. It's not like just young people. It's not just older people. It's like you're going to have 3 or 4 generations of a family coming. We had somebody complain that you couldn't register over 11 people at once. Like that's the kind of stuff we're getting. People are like doing family reunions. We have baby showers. We're probably going to have wedding proposals this year at it. It's just
Awesome.
off the chain.
That's crazy. In terms of Doctor Who, for yourself, then, how did you get into it, and which Doctor did you grow up with?
This is probably very similar for a lot of Americans, but
Mm.
PBS showed Tom Baker in
Mm.
the 80s. So when I
Yeah.
was growing up in the 80s, I didn't have cable, and that was my thing. I would every night I would not go to bed until I got to watch Doctor Who, and of course everybody in school made fun of me for it. Everybody, like it was not cool back then. You might as well have been wearing that would be like coming to school wearing MC Hammer pants today. Like it just doesn't work. I brought a canine that I made out of a shoebox and
Mm.
golf tee for the nose and everything, and a show and tell. And in retrospect, that still was a badass canine that I made. But man, everybody made fun of me for it. It was a shame. So it's kind of like what I say about the best revenge is living well. So now a lot of those kids, whatever, but it ends up being a big thing that I did when I was an adult.
Mm.
It just shows that just be yourself. You might not have people that like you right now, but you'll find them eventually. So yeah, Tom Baker, totally. I was afraid of Davros.
Mm.
One of the ones that traumatized me, and I'm blanking on the title. I just said it in another interview, but the one with the stones, the giant rocks that like strain your blood, that
Mm.
scared the crap out of me when I was little. So I loved it, and again, I do the haunted house thing too on my blog. I review haunted houses, so
Yeah.
scary Halloween fantasy has always been my thing.
Um, when it comes down to it, though, what values did Doctor Who impart on your daily life?
I really think that it was more uh, always stand up for yourself. And given that the doctor was old enough to be my dad, My dad was actually suffering. He was dying from terminal cancer at the time. So it was really helpful for me to kind of see. It was kind of like, another father figure that you could see on a TV show, and you could imagine yourself being, going with them and doing adventures, and that was a great escape for me. I love the sense of humor. I love, Tom, like I always say, like Tom Baker does this weird thing when he acts with his face, and I don't know, he maybe is normally like that, but it's just so endearing. He's got this personality that goes for miles. So I just really love that, and I always had a crazy sense of humor. My family was into Renaissance fairs and stuff like that. So yeah, and I've always identified with, I really like Leela, because, again, I was always this little girl that wanted to just, do her own thing, and yeah, I know you're surprised to hear that. But
No, of course not. Looking at your guest list here, because it's extensive, I have to admit, for a beginning convention, you have Dr. 4, 6, 7, companions, writers, canon writers, script editors, Davros himself. I mean, the amount of phone calls, Twitter, email, interaction that you've had to put this convention together is just mind-blowing, especially for a first convention.
Yeah, it's we have a really good reputation from running intervention. So that is, people keep asking me, how did you get Tom Baker? And somebody joked, what kind of blackmail do you have on him? Because he doesn't do conventions out of the UK.
Right.
And I know for a fact he's turned down many conventions for the Skype because they saw that we did it, and I heard of quite a few people pitched him on it as well, and he just turned them down outright. I really do believe that it's because of our reputation with intervention and how we're doing this for the right reasons, and we're continuing to do that with Regen. We actually have actors canceling acting jobs for our convention, believe it or not. We do. We have script writers who couldn't make it this year that are kicking themselves because they couldn't get out of a work commitment. It's like I have more requests on the actor and the guest side than I could actually accommodate budget-wise, and that's if I could easily invite 5 or 6 more guests tomorrow. They're all standing by. It's just you want to make sure that you can afford to pay them what they're asking for. So we're at our limit now for what we can do safely for the first year. So we've cut that off. But yeah. They're all over it. And I think the fact that we have this really good social media presence, that we're going out to conventions, we're putting videos together of cosplayers, we're photographing and featuring cosplayers, we're working with the BBC for the Doctor Who experience. We've covered them.
Nice.
My assistant is going to be flying over there in April, and she's getting a backstage tour because of being with our events. And the writer was interested in coming this year but couldn't make it, the writer of that show, or the show that's actually in the Doctor Who experience.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it's just we've done a lot of outreach to help BBC just like we do with everyone else, and I think that was a clear difference. And it's cohesive. It's not like we're not a committee. It is just me and James at the top, setting everything, controlling everything, and then everybody else executes and contributes. And that's probably why he's not feeling well today, but we need to be better at delegation. That's what we learned this week, but we're getting there. Control freak, man, control freak. It has to go well.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, 7 years doing this, and it's hard to let it go. It's hard to delegate to other people. And,
yeah.
But the one thing about that I've always been impressed with yourself, Oni, is the fact that you know how to delegate, you know how to get people working with you, not necessarily those that work under you work with you. It's not a matter of you have a very basic structure that works well, and everyone keeps coming back, especially with your intervention attendee or staff flipping over to ReGeneration Who. So we were talking in the green room there.
Yeah, I know some people have said, because I'm basically overseeing marketing, so I'm mostly focused on that. I do a lot of the event structure, the regular event stuff as well, but the thing that people see me do is the marketing thing. So I have had people, say, "Oh, that's it's you sound kind of like you're like really a little too intense on that." And I'm like, I have to talk about what we do well. I mean, I know it's not something that a lot of women do. A lot of women are very modest because culturally that's how we're, guess, supposed to be seen. I can't be like that and still be successful. No one else is going to make this successful for me. So um, I do the marketing thing, but I actually don't feel that I am higher in rank than anybody else. I have staff members that, I walk into the room, they get up off of their seat to try to give me their seat, and I tell them to sit their ass back down, and I will sit on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the type of ship we run. I don't believe in it. I think it's bullshit. I don't like people that act like they're superior to other people. I am going to, talk about how we're amazing and all the stuff that we've accomplished, because otherwise people won't know that we're doing it. But interpersonally, people work with me. They don't work for me. If I say people are working for me, that's just the grammatical mistake, because that's normally how people say it. And I'm probably on autopilot, but I view it as with. And I hear routinely from my staff that it's very easy to staff my events because I will support them no matter what. Like, I've had staff that have messed up, and like, let's just say they announced something that we shouldn't have announced, and it's maybe a little wrong or whatever, and I was like, I guess we're doing that. Yep, we're doing it. That's what we're doing. I mean, I can't think of any major incidents that's really happened. Maybe small ones, but I'm not going to be like, don't ever say that. If somebody says something that's just completely wrong, I'll just say, hey guys, just so you know, don't say that, because you're going to set people up for disappointment. But yeah, no, I support everything, and throughout the year I'll redesign their resume for them. If they ask me, I'll help them get jobs. That's how I view it. We can't pay them. I took my green room staff out to dinner last night, and they were trying to pay, and I'm like, are you kidding? Get out of here. We're paying for you guys, because they're going to be feeding us for 3 days when we're half dead, and they're not going to be sleeping. The least I can do is buy them a burger and fries.
Exactly, yeah. Hungry, or rather well-fed people are, happy people. It kind of gets it.
That is something we do that I've been told, and not a lot of other cons do. We actually provide for full-time staff. We provide them crash space. It's not like a single room. Like, they're going to be in a room with a bunch of other people. But we provide that, and we actually provide food. And I was told that not a lot of cons do that. They just expect people to pay for their own rooms, pay for admission, and I was surprised, because I've only staffed a few other cons. Well, no, I guess when I do staff, I tend to just buy my own stuff, so I haven't really seen how other cons have handled it. So I just assumed everybody gave everybody as much as we did. I was wrong. and people are saying, oh, to make your budget better for this year, because you never know if you're gonna how you're gonna, how much money you're gonna earn, or if you're gonna break even. They're like, oh, you should cut the food, you should cut this, and I'm like, these people are working as hard as I am. I am not cutting that. I'm even willing. I even say to people, don't go hungry. If I find out you're going hungry, I'm going to get mad. I mean, I can buy you a pizza. I have $20. Like, if we run out of food and you're hungry, I'll buy you a pizza. We don't play around with that. So, I mean, obviously, if somebody's like taking lunch meat and throwing it at the wall and as a game, I'll be like, don't waste that stuff, man. But that's the only thing.
You better eat that wall lunch meat. Yeah,
eat the wall lunch meat. Don't let it sit there. If you want to throw it, eat it, clean it up, make sure the hotel doesn't charge me anything. I don't care. We're good.
When it comes down to it, over the years, intervention has been extremely successful. I mean, I keep kicking myself, because whenever you do an intervention con, I'm either stuck in school, I'm stuck at another con, or I'm stuck doing something else along the lines of a podcast. So it really hurts me that I can never attend these conventions. And the fact that you're doing it this coming, or in next weekend, is even more disheartening, because I'm doing an art show, and it's like, Oni, why do you do this to me? I want to attend these awesome events here. When it comes down to, obviously, you're looking at the schedule, you're looking at, I gotta switch cameras for a second. You're looking at convention schedules, you're trying to plan it between cons, hopefully, or whatever weekend you can actually get something set up. Why at the end of March?
So we wanted to be away from the other conventions. There's a Doctor Who convention in November. There's 2, I think, in November. and there's one in February. We didn't want to do anything in January. We didn't want to do winter. With intervention being in August, we didn't want anything close to intervention. So it got to be, because like the development time, I'm kind of already working on both at the same time. I'm doing guest recruitment right now, and it's rough to do. So I wanted to keep them as far apart as possible. And really also a lot of the guests, the shooting schedules they have, a lot of times in the UK they're shooting in the summer or in the late spring, so it just ended up being that way. I don't like necessarily that intervention isn't going to be August 14th through the 16th this year. It's a week earlier than before. We've been playing around with the date. I really think that college not being in session during it used to be intervention would fall during college move-in, or it'd fall during, I don't know, just apparently college move-in changes every year, and it almost always was on intervention. So we've had trouble getting people from colleges to actually attend, which is primarily who should probably be there, well, in addition to everybody else that goes. Yeah, the dates are tough because there's also other events like Awesome Con is coming shortly after us, and that area is so saturated for cons. Actually, the number one thing as an event runner that I can't stand is picking dates. We're actually opposite another convention, not in Philadelphia, that I actually am friends with those guys, and I didn't know that they moved their dates, and I was like horrified when I found that out. I mean, we're both going to be fine because we're not both Doctor Who events. Right. There's some overlap, but we're both going to be fine. But obviously, I didn't want to do that, so it's kind of a game of almost like a game of whack-a-mole to try to find out a date that no one else is using, that isn't close to my other events, that it's like a Jenga tower of dumb. So if I could have my way, I would have no conventions anywhere near snow, but hopefully the snow is done for the year. So
you mean you haven't had like, what was it, 50 degrees and like no snow, like we're melted here in Windsor? So.
Oh, we've actually had a pretty bad winter like that this year here, which is abnormal for us. We've had like almost constant snow flurries or snow, and like almost every week a snow day. But yeah, you guys have it much worse.
Yeah, we set records. It was minus 30 like for 2 weeks in a row or something, and that was not even including wind chill. So yeah.
What the? That's against nature, dude. That's against nature.
The funny thing about that is we're in the banana belt, so usually all of the snow kind of hits Cleveland and Ohio and all that stuff. No, it just went right. It took out the banana boat and just said, "Here, have everything. Have fun."
Oh,
so good.
That's
times.
Not good.
No.
That's not good.
Yeah.
Snow is my enemy. I mean, people are like, "Oh, snow is so pretty," and I'm like, then when you have to drive to work in it, you will no longer feel that way.
Yes, my tires will definitely attest to that, and my alignment too.
Yeah. Oh God, New Jersey is so bad because apparently in our state they have decided that the politicians will pocket the money instead of using them to fix the roads. So we have potholes that are ridiculous. Like I saw one that was, I swear to God, 3 to 4 feet long, and it was like this deep. It was crazy. And and it was in an area where you couldn't possibly not hit it. And I know I blew my alignment. Somehow I'm gonna have to get my car realigned. But it's terrible.
Going back to the convention here, looking at you have some amazing participants. You have a lot of really cool. I'm talking vendors is what I'm referring to here, and it seems like you have a very tight area for the vendors and the guests area too. I mean, must be a couple, well, 1,500 or 15,000 square feet or something like that.
Yeah, we have like I think 56 or 58 vendors, and I think we have like, well, at least 58 tables. Some of the vendors needed like 2 or 3 tables. We have Artist Alley, which is a little smaller, but it's pretty sizable. So yeah, I mean it definitely, oddly enough, and I found that this was the same for almost all first-year Doctor Who events. The attendees and the guests are into it. And then the vendors actually came in slower, but we sold that out too pretty quickly.
Nice.
But yeah, it was funny. Like the first month, I was like, we were selling out of VIP tier stuff.
Wow.
Like one went in 6 weeks, and I was like, whoa, okay. And I was like, we need more than 3 vendors in the room now. Like, come on, vendors. But they eventually the word got out. I talked to a few other people. I'm like, can you tell your vendors that we exist? And then we were like, boom, they were all in. So.
Nice. That's awesome. I see a pretty fun special event, Tea with a Doctor.
Yeah, that's the one that sold out in 6 weeks.
That's
Yeah, that is going to be really awesome. And people, I get people every day like, is there a cancellation? Can I have it? Can I have it? And I'm like, no. I mean, we had to move it to a bigger room, but we can't put more people in there because then it's like people are going to be mad that they don't get enough time because it's going to be done kind of like speed dating.
Oh.
So we're going to have tables where we're going to have, I think, 5 or 6 attendees sit at a round table, and the guest will come and sit with them for like 10 minutes, and they'll talk to all of them, and then the alarm will go off, and they move to the next table. We actually did something like that at Katsucon when I was a guest there, and it worked really well. So I was like, we'll do it that way. It's safe for the guests because they'll be able to get up and they won't be stampeded or anything. And the attendees are just going to love it because they're going to have such time with these guests where they're not normally, they're not going to be in front of a table. There's no sales happening. And I just think it's going to be great. We're having our pastry chef, make really fancy TARDIS and Gallifrey themed stuff. I'm going to get photos of that. She hasn't even shown me what she's doing yet, but last I heard there was at least TARDIS chocolates or something she was testing. I'm not even sure.
I think you may have to mail some of those up to Canada here.
Yeah, she's really good. She does part of our green room at Intervention, and she's been like the tradition at Intervention is she's Hawaiian, so she makes spam musubi, which is essentially spam sushi, which some people find the sound of it disgusting, but if you like awesome and you're not vegetarian, it actually tastes amazing.
That's awesome.
And it went viral, so to speak, in the convention as like a thing that we did. And so she's definitely the person that does the cool things, the weird, quirky, little fancy stuff. She gave us Gallifrey chocolates that were swirled, and they look kind of like Mars, like the planet Mars.
Yeah.
But of course it was Gallifrey. And we had them wrapped up, and we gave them with a little card to different cosplayers that we were photographing at Katsucon. So that was fun.
That's great. I've always been impressed with your innovative ideas, the fact that you're very active on Twitter. You're very active in the social media aspect. When it comes to a marketing campaign for say, Doctor Who, what's a couple of things that make you stand out from those that are just running general conventions in terms of marketing?
Well, I think people know us because we've made ourselves available online, and we definitely are open. Like, I'm active. We have a community on Facebook called Regenerators, and I'm actually posting on there all the time. I give them early, like before I post something major on the site, I'll just be like, here, you guys can have the guest announcement a day early. If they have a question, I answer it usually within 10 minutes. And they know our names, they know how hard we're working, and I even say when things are going wrong. Like, I mentioned that Harknell got sick yesterday from overwork, and they were like, oh my God. So they understand that we're not a big corporation. We're not like this, organization that's cliquey, that doesn't want, we're working with an attendee right now. We had some questions about how to handle photo ops for the best way for the fans. We didn't know the answer because it's new to us. So he was like, I'll help. So I connected him with my staff, and he's helping us out now. He's just an attendee, and he was shocked that we wanted the feedback. And I'm like, yes, we do, because we want it to be good. And we don't know the answer that's in your head that you probably have, gone to many of these conventions and said, oh, I wish they would do this, or I wish they would do that. Well, it's come to my attention, like what awesome looks like, so help us out. And he's loving it. He might join staff next year officially, but and that's the thing, the transparency and like a lot of conventions, like you see the big corporate ones where they just post things and like, give me your money, and and you don't know anybody's name, and it doesn't feel like people actually care. Well, it's obvious that we actually care, and we actually have trained our staff to make sure that people are all right at the event, to be very friendly, to be very welcoming. Anybody who doesn't do that doesn't last long with me, and we're actually very picky with who we let on staff. So we usually give like 5 or 10 people a chance every year, And if they work out, we promote them because they have an apprentice year. So we'll promote them into being full staff without, they may not need oversight after that. They're still going to have to check in with me, but they may not need oversight. But that it's kind of like when you get new fish and you put the new fish in the tank in the little bag. You want to make sure that they acclimate to what is expected. I don't want pockets of drama. Somebody didn't believe me. She was like, oh yeah, I'm sure it's great until you get started, and she was talking about horror stories about her staffing of cons, and I'm like, none of this stuff happens with me because I don't care if it's my best friend. If they're not doing the right thing for this organization, I'm going to politely take them aside and say, fix it, or, like, there's one of two things they can do. And luckily, we have not had to do that. And it's because I am very transparent to everybody about what we expect, including the staff, and they respect that. So, yeah. And people, well, one thing I noticed with this one is we had people thinking it was like a standard convention where there's no real oversight, and some people came in and wanted, oh, I want to be head of guest relations. And I'm like, first off, who are you? Second off, I'm sure you want to be head of guest relations. That's great. So the only way to get on the staff was to either have a staffed intervention or an internal referral from somebody staffing intervention in good standing. That was really the only way. And like I said, I think we gave 5 or 10 people a chance that didn't have any of those things that are in apprentice state.
Unfortunately, in the real world, you don't start at the top. You have to work your way up. Go figure. It's crazy.
Yeah. Exactly.
But especially with the generation of, hey, give me all of this stuff. Not quite. Yeah, sorry, I may be a little jaded on that in some regards, but
corporate, yeah, for corporate stuff, I'm not a fan of. Like, yeah. I've done okay in corporate America, but the way offices are generally run, I don't like that. I think if people bring a complaint up, they shouldn't be blamed for it. Usually if I have something at, not my current day job, but I've had jobs in the past where, you have a problem, maybe somebody's like legitimately harassing you or legitimately completely screwing up, and if you bring it up, you're the one that gets fired because they don't want the problem. That's not how we do it. We do the opposite. I believe in investing in people because I think it's going to pay off, and it really did, because I don't think I would have been able to start ReGeneration Who if I hadn't done that for 5 years.
Very true, very true. I remember, I think the very first time you were on the show, and I'd have to look back on it, but I believe you and Harknell were on second year of intervention, and then you came back for the 4th or 5th year, I forget. I've had you on a few times. Because I helped, I was a sponsor for the very first one, actually. Because I remember way back when.
2010.
Oh God, TGT Webcomics was the old show there. The one thing I've always enjoyed about both of you on the show, and wish Harknell my best, because he's an awesome guy, and hopefully he gets sleep, because that's probably what he needs.
Yeah.
Is that you're always you're open, you're friendly, pretty much I call you an American Canadian is what I call you, because you're so awesome like that. So all you got to do is learn the boots and the A's, and you'll be all set in the double doubles. You're
Awesome.
But the reason why I love having you come back is because of your positive attitude and your no nonsense attitude, and I think in seeing your personality and your work ethic, especially your work ethic, throughout the years, that hasn't changed. You've been constant and consistent and awesome every single year. So it's great that you're moving to another convention. You're adding another convention to your already impressive resume there.
Yay, thanks. Yeah, it hasn't been easy at all, honestly. And you might have seen one of my posts, like, welcome to your career in con running. That actually comes from Stephen Archer in the band Ego Likeness. Definitely check those guys out. They're really cool. They're actually performing at ReGeneration Who this year. Awesome. He started a thing where it's welcome to your career in the arts, because he's a full-time musician, and he does art to supplement his career. And he would post like an animated GIF of somebody falling on their ass, or somebody, something exploding, and welcome to your career in the arts. So it kind of got, now we're like, welcome to your career in con running, and it's just something really crazy or going wrong. because it is tough to have a positive attitude when, like, basically my job is stuff is going to go wrong all the time, and I have to figure out how to respond to it effectively, and that's really hard. But we do it. We do it. You know, and I think now, when I was younger, I wasn't positive at all, and then, you know, my life sucked, and I was like, well, I took a look at myself, and I'm like, well, how's that working out? I mean, there was in my early convention years when I would go to conventions, I wasn't as bad as some people that I've seen in the scene, certainly not at all, but I definitely think that when I first started doing cons, I wish I would have known. I always advise for webcomics and anybody that exhibits at a convention to staff a con once, because to understand the pressure that con staff are under, and to understand that they're doing this for free, they're doing this for the community, which includes you, and, you know, maybe they're not being nice, but maybe they've been worked to death, and not every organization is run as tight as mine, so maybe their boss is crazy and, you know, putting them in a bad position. Just understanding how much work con staff does, I think, is critical. And I think anybody that wants to sell anything at conventions, just definitely staff a con once to find that out. Because that's something I didn't know early on, and I think that maybe not that I expected too much, because I always tell my staff, you know, we do expect a lot from my staff, I really do, but I just think that the way that some artists and vendors approach con staff could be a little more tactful, is what I'm saying, for their problems. Like, yeah, I see a lot of people out there that they go to cons and they like, if they didn't sell well, or if something's not perfect, they immediately start screaming at people. I'm like, you probably shouldn't just start screaming at people. Like, the person there wants to fix it probably just as much as you want it fixed. And if they don't, then maybe that's a bad con. But that's just my perspective. I feel that's something I've learned having been on both sides of the fence, which is why a lot of times a lot of artists come to me for advice, because I probably in another life I could be an excellent artist manager, just because I know how to parse a lot of that and a lot of the press, and having written for the press too, it's another thing. I did it a little bit, so now I kind of understand a little bit of what their life is like, other people's perspectives. That's a tangent.
I may have to hire you then. Get the show on a new path, the Onezumi path to excellence. There.
It's tough. I mean, well, in some cases, like, I look at everybody's art career or whatever, you know, podcast, blog, whatever, almost like an ecosystem. Like, if you see my stuff, I do my personal blog where I talk about my life. People get to know me. I'm very honest. My one rule is always tell the truth. Don't BS anybody. Respect them enough to tell them the truth. There's a quote on, like, I actually like the TV show Scandal, funny enough, and there's a quote on that show where she's talking about, you need to have your angle, you need to have your pitch, you need to have your marketing angle, and the guy's like, I don't know, I just always tell the truth. And she's like, that is a strategy. So, I mean, even though I'm not planning it for it to be a strategy, it really kind of is, and because there's so many lies on the internet right now, it's really refreshing. So I have that blog where I talk about my stuff. I did the haunted house stuff that got popular by accident, so I still do it. I enjoy it. That built up traffic. Doing intervention got me into markets that otherwise wouldn't have paid attention to me, because now I have universities and, you know, legacy respected tech people wanting to talk to me. So then that was helpful. Doing that built up my staff of geeks like me, which led me into ReGeneration Who. And throughout all of this ecosystem that makes no damn sense, I was able to pull it back to the fact that I posted about myself on the blog, that people saw all of these projects that made no sense, and they identified primarily with what I was going through to make them happen. And that's how I tied my ecosystem together. So my advice to a lot of people is to diversify into other things that you like and make your voice really known. Even if your voice is like, I just made a ham sandwich, I mean, I'm sure that if I talked about making a ham sandwich, I could think of a very colorful way to talk about it that would make people laugh. And you know how sometimes I get very colorful.
No, just a tiny bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, people think it's amusing, I guess, because they keep clicking like. It's funny, I'll post about something like, oh my God, it was really great, I saw this, you know, something normal. 3 likes. And I'll post something with like, crazy hyperbole and colorful language about kicking somebody's ass, and I get 120 likes on it. And I'm like, people really like when I kick people's asses. That's weird. Okay. But yeah, TLDR ecosystem, and it's not easy, and all of the almost, I would say 90% of the press coverage I get is from me pitching. It's not necessarily them coming to me. After intervention 4, more press started coming to me, but it took at least 4 years, and now I'm getting like the Baltimore Sun thing came to me because somebody on our staff reached out to them, and I don't really know how that came about, but that was one random one. I didn't have to actually evangelize myself, so it's new. Awesome. Don't ever think stuff just happens for people. It doesn't. No. I don't sleep. Let's go a little more philosophical with you here. I have a couple of rapid-fire questions that you just need to answer with one word. If you'd like to expand upon them, you can. And then I'll go into my patented 4 questions from my little person amongst media giants as well, okay, which is still ongoing after 3 years. But that's beside the point. Hang on, let me pull them up. Right? No, here they are. Ah, yes, here. All right. Yeah, that is tough. I know what you mean about... I actually hear a lot of times from different places that they don't want to talk to blogs or podcasts, believe it or not. Like, just blanket. Like, it doesn't matter even who you are. They just say, no blogs, no podcasts. I just... I identify with that, being a blogger myself in a niche. I feel I kind of have to work harder to put myself above some, just the word blog or podcast.
No, I know what you mean. It's actually had a guest that I had scheduled months and months ago cancel last minute because her management said to, and I was like, okay, you couldn't have told me, a week before when I had something, planned.
Yeah, that's crappy. Ugh.
Yeah, it's the joy of the industry itself, though. I mean, you live with disappointment, you live with regret, but then you move on and say, yeah, whatever, I'll try them next year. Or not at all.
For me, I was never the cool kid. I was never the cool person. I mean, some people, I guess, think I'm cool now, which is a surprise to me, a complete shock. But I've always functioned kind of outside of the system. And especially with intervention, like a lot of the legacy, some legacy people, there's definitely are cliques that have formed legacy-wise, and
sorry,
they don't all.
Well,
like legacy people, like they don't people, the same people that would say I don't understand the value of the internet, like they want to go back to pre-internet, to the gatekeeper and that kind of thing. It's an interesting dynamic. I think in the future, blogs and podcasts are going to be all that's left. So I think something's going to have to change.
It's that and reality stars.
Oh, God.
I mean, blogs, podcasts, lawyers, cockroaches, same thing, Okay, found the questions here. So, simple one-word answers, expand if you like. I never get tired of...
cheese.
You're my best friend now.
That's literally the first thing I thought of.
That works for me.
I haven't had dinner yet, and I really want a cheese hot dog.
Oh. Yeah. You could have gotten dinner before you started.
I ate breakfast at 1:30 though, so that was the kind of day I'm having.
Okay, all right. I get it. What does every child deserve?
I would say an education, honestly.
That's good.
So education, that's the one word. Because if you're dumb, you can't get to where I am. And everybody, I think, should be able to.
Very good. One of my art teacher was saying, you can't cure stupid, but you can cure ignorance.
Yep, that's a good one. I like that.
Yeah. He's been teaching for 46 years, and he's an awesome art professor. What's something you don't want to regret when you're older?
Anything. I don't want to regret anything. And that's why we have very, very significant procedures about how we deal with people. Like if somebody's not doing well, we don't throw them out. We look at mentoring them first. So I don't want to regret anything. Every decision that I make, I don't want to look back on and say, I regretted that. That's the worst feeling ever, and I don't believe in it in my life.
Good answer. I like it. Because there's always usually that knee-jerk reaction when it comes to situations that you have a hot head, or not you, but I'm saying people have a hot head about, and they don't just think clearly.
Yeah, that's why I have Harknell. He's very calm, so if you
Hmm.
ever see him stressed out or whatever, you know it's pretty extreme. I'm the person that, in the old days would have just literally flipped my own table and gone over and started uppercutting somebody. Um, and, you know, I don't do that anymore. But it's good that he and I are together because we balance each other out pretty well and we make pretty good decisions. And I'm smart enough to know when to shut up and when to let him tell me I'm wrong. And I'm receptive to that. I've had staff actually be in the room when I was very upset about a certain situation that was, not right or whatever. And they see I'll get mad, and I'm like, "Now I'm sorry. I'm probably being crazy. Tell me why I'm wrong." That's and they're like, "You're wrong because of this." I'm like, "All right, do what you're saying. Do that one. Don't do mine. Do that one." And,
That's awesome.
and it's all behind closed doors. No one ever sees it, and it's handled fairly. So.
Good stuff. Um, every person needs.
It's like a Beatles song. I would say a support somebody else, a Harknell. I guess every person needs love, really, because that really is what he wasn't feeling well today, and I'm struggling a little bit. I'll be honest with you, because he does certain things well that I don't do well. I do certain things well that he doesn't do well. And the fact that we each have each other's unconditional support, that is the only reason this is happening. That it's really, people give me all the credit, and I keep saying he doesn't care about the credit. He feels that I've gotten crapped on too much, and I've gotten overlooked too much, so he wants me to get more of that. And we've had very serious conversations about this, and I've always brought attention to him, and he's just like, "No, don't worry about it. It's like I do my stuff, but you're really the reason it's all happening. So you really need to get out there and make
Mhm.
more of it happen." I'm like, "Sure, okay," but he really does a lot.
No, I completely agree. I mean, whenever I see anything that you post or whatever, I mean, I enjoy it. I mean, the fact that you're engaging, you're entertaining, and that you take things seriously, but you know how to have fun. I mean, you're right. You're the yin to Harknell's yang and all that other stuff. So it
Yeah,
works
he
out
never
well.
posts anything. He doesn't like social media. It's not because of any personal thing. He just is like, "I'm boring. I don't have anything to say." And I'm glad my stuff is interesting, because I just really post my strategy. It's not a strategy, but it's, my way of operating is I just post like if I'm talking to my friends, and
Hmm.
hopefully I'll find more friends, and that's how it's worked. Because I don't really have too many friends in New Jersey, because they've all moved out. It's too
Mm.
expensive to live here, and I think by next year, um, probably everybody I know and have ever been friends with, and that's a lot of people,
Right.
won't be here anymore. They're just leaving, like they're dropping like flies. So it's good to find new friends that actually like what I like, because you can't necessarily go to a day job and be like, "Yeah, I like these geeky weird things," and people not like, "What are you, 6 years old?" Like that's or if somebody's like 40, 50 years older than you, they're just going to be like, "Yeah, I'm thinking about retirement," and I'm like, that's great. Don't really have too much in common with that, but that's great. So yeah,
Mm.
new friends.
Uh, yeah, it's good to have friends. Like I said, move up to Canada. We love to have you guys here.
Canada always sounds awesome. Honestly, it really has. I mean, you guys are just, I always see the Canadian comedies, but none of that ever, we're joking on Canadians. None of us, I think, ever really think those are real, though. Like, our actual perception of Canada is that it's like, kind of better, honestly, in a lot of ways. Um,
Well, we've cut down on in terms of crime and all that stuff. We cut down on our polar bear attacks. Our penguin triad is still a bit of an issue, and our caribou cartel. Well, they're dealing in the Salt Lick trade. So what can I say?
and you guys have that really good show, Being Erica, that I loved, and I felt ended a season too early, but
Yeah, that's usually what happens. But at least it wasn't canceled by Fox.
yeah, that's exactly what I said. If it was on Fox, it would have been canceled after one series. It was really good.
A few more questions in this thing here. dream job. I already know what you're going to do because you're already doing it.
Yeah, I
Uh,
want to do this.
um, what have you always wanted to do but never have done?
I've never been on an airplane, and I've never gone any place far away enough to warrant an airplane. I've
Really?
always wanted to do that. Yeah, yeah. I grew up with no money, so my family couldn't afford to fly. And then when I moved out, I went to college. I was really poor, paying my way through college. Then I met Harknell, and he doesn't like to fly, and we didn't have. We, for all intents and purposes, were working poor until about 2008. We didn't have the ability to do any of this. I had actually worked hard at my day job and doing webcomics, and I made enough money that I kind of went over the, okay, we're suffering and dying every day, level, and we can like build stuff up and pay things off. So, it's funny that I fly like 20 people in from the UK before I've ever been on a plane. But hey, maybe the first time I go to the UK, I can have one of the doctors show me around. You never know.
Yeah, call up Tom and say, hey, I'm in the area and.
He actually trusted me with his home address. That was
Oh,
surprising to me. That speaks to my my reputation.
definitely for sure.
So
He
yeah,
just
we just mailed him
coffee.
his package, and no, I wouldn't do that.
I
But
know.
I did give him a letter, and I said, I hope I can get to the UK to thank you personally at one of your. I specified in the letter one of your public appearances. Didn't want him to think I was crazy.
Oh, those crazy Americans always showing up unexpectedly. Go figure. Here we go. Passionate about, I already know that. What 5 words would you use to describe yourself?
Oh, geez. That's tough because describing yourself is really crazy. It's kind of like I kind of do feel that the impression that, and I probably a lot of actors get this too, which is I think why I get along with them. When you're a public persona on the internet, who you actually are is not necessarily the same as what people perceive you as, because they see only one aspect. They see the high points. They don't see what goes into between those posts. So I definitely would say I'm shy, which is, I know some people are like, what the hell? I overcompensate intentionally because I know I can't be shy. So that's one. So we'll say shy. I would say stubborn. Um, I would say I am hot-headed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I would say, man, hooked on phonics worked for me. Let's think of other words. Uh,
Thesaurus.com.
yeah, I'm trying to think. It's also I'm trying to think of what else to say about myself. I tend to be kind of selfless in some ways that are kind of dumb. So we'll say selfless. And definitely creative, because I think of weird shit that no one else thinks of. Like,
Yeah.
hey, we have a Doctor Who convention. Let's get a DeLorean out front. We did that. We're going to have a DeLorean.
Did you get Doc Brown as well?
We probably will have somebody cosplaying him. I don't know if we're going to do that. I mean, I'd be surprised if somebody didn't. So I forget all those words that I said, but those are the 5. I already forget them.
That's okay. That works for me. It is tough. Would you consider yourself an extroverted introvert?
I would say so, yeah. I don't know. Like when I was little, I'm actually legally blind without eye correction. So for a long time, people thought that I was stupid because I just wasn't able to see. When they diagnosed my vision problem, it's still not correctable to 100%. So still, they would put me in the back of the room and they would think I was stupid. So I, by nature, ended up always hanging back because I need to. Even today, Harknell walks in front of me everywhere I go, only because I'm using him kind of like as a seeing eye Harknell. And so naturally, I was raised being more shy because I wasn't able to see, and people thought I was weird or dumb because I couldn't see. So I don't know if I would have been an extrovert had I not had that vision problem or had it been diagnosed and treated properly earlier. But yeah, I would definitely say that I'm an extroverted introvert. I don't know how it would have been different or how much of that is just upbringing, but it's not easy. And I think it's easy for me to identify with a lot of people because I think a lot of our con attendees are similar. Like they may be shy, and it just makes sense because I read a lot of books, you know, and that's what you do when you go to a convention. You usually are somebody that grew up reading books, reading comics, rather than going to drinking parties.
Exactly.
They're not mutually exclusive, as I've seen, but you know, that's just a general thing.
Unless you combine the two, then it's like, have you seen that graphic novel? Fucking awful. It's just so great. Page 32.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that. Or anything, if you've ever gone to MagFest, which is a music festival, gaming festival in January. Great people. They're actually helping us out at ReGeneration Who with registration. And yeah, it's a 12,000 person gaming festival, and see a lot of drinking there.
Wait, I've never heard of this place.
Yeah, MagFest is good. It's in National Harbor, Maryland every January. I highly recommend it. If I was not involved in conventions whatsoever, that would be the convention that I go to. They have at least a football field full of arcade cabinets. Every arcade cabinet, pinball machine known to man. They have a room for console games. You could play Battletoads there, all the way up through the most modern games. It's just, and then they have like the Proto Men. And I'm promoting somebody else's event, but that's how I am. It's a good event, and they need props. I mean, they don't need the help; they're helping me. But you know, they're awesome.
That's great. That's really cool. Battletoads. Sorry, that brings me back to when I worked at EB Games. There would be a person that would call at least once a day, asking if we had Battletoads available. It's crazy.
It's a good game.
It is. It's a hard game.
It's a hard game. I actually I beat it once, but here's the thing. On my own power, I can get to like I think level 11. It's 11. It's been a while, but I actually played it again on the Tapwave Zodiac, which is a now defunct Palm Pilot-based system. I still have it. It was really good. You could put save state on it, and there's one level at the end where there's a bomb where you got to go down through all this like stuff, and the bomb's chasing you. You have to like fall properly. Yeah. Well, it's impossible to beat, I think. Maybe somebody will have beaten it, but I actually had it with save state. I had it in slow motion, so I was navigating him. I was cheating because I had played it like about 100 times and failed, and I was navigating per pixel, and I still could not beat the damn thing. So I skipped the level, and I beat the game that way. So I didn't officially beat it, but that's a hard game.
Definitely. All right, well, let's get to the 4 questions that I normally ask towards the end of the show here.
Sure.
You know, obviously you're. Sorry, I'll go to the first question I normally ask. When it comes down to it, everyone has one person, maybe 2 people, that kind of inspired them on their path to where they are today. Who was that for you?
That's a good question. Probably my dad. You know, again, because my dad was my dad was my adoptive grandfather, or my grandfather was my adoptive dad. That's what I'm trying to say. And he was a World War II veteran, and he, you know, again, he was dying of lung cancer in the 80s. He was one of those like shit my dad says people, and he would always say, you know, don't take any shit. You know, they give you a problem, just punch them or whatever. Like he was one of those like older guys that just had no time for any bullshit. Yep. So definitely him. I am really inspired by Walt Disney. I know people have criticized him negatively, but what I'm speaking about is the aspects of Walt Disney when it comes to creating a brand based off things that are emotionally engaging. Just because I like that in my life, and I just feel that understanding how to make really, like, I even tell people at my events, like, you know, it's like Disney with making magical moments happen for people. If somebody, you know, if you can make somebody happy by doing something that costs you $3, do it, and I'll reimburse you. Like, that's how we view it. And I just, you know, regardless, I don't, you know, obviously I never met Walt Disney, I don't know any of that, but the idea that you're there to make people smile, that kind of thing, I really got a lot of, it kind of changed my life when I went to Disney in 2008, once I could finally afford it. And I learned that, you know, being positive is a little more fun. So that was a really big inspiration, and his story behind that, regardless of whether it was a sanitized story or not, was a big inspiration. Of course, Mary Blair, who did the Small World ride, very similar to my art. had no idea, because I'm sure I've seen the Small World ride, but I didn't intentionally make my art to be like hers. But apparently we were separated at birth somehow, or something, because and she's cool. So yeah, that's what I can think. I don't really get, like, I tend to be a cynic, so like when it comes to like actors or people in the media, I tend to like kind of look for the bullshit and get more cynical. But those are three people that I can say.
That's awesome. That's good stuff. Obviously, you've had a lot of a lot of professional success with intervention, with your website, with your webcomic, everything along that line. Do you consider yourself personally successful?
It depends on what vector. I think most people would say that I am, and most people would say that I'm an asshole for saying that I'm not. But on a daily basis, I don't really feel, that successful, because I mean, all of what I do, it doesn't make money. Like, my events don't make any money yet. That could change in 2 weeks, but they don't make any money yet. They have gotten me 3 or 4 times the amount of my starting salary raise, so it's made money that way. I'm now a very high-level marketing person. I wasn't even a marketing person when I when I started. It just turned out being what I did well for the best. So companies started hiring me for it. So I mean, I guess I'm successful, but I don't feel I'm at the point where I want to be yet. The point that I want to be is when I can actually make money myself and not have to be anchored to any particular location to do it. It's not that I'm going to just ditch everything out, but I just having that, like, oh, I make this much money from this, and so if ever I need an oh shit fund, I won't be like, oh shit. I don't have that yet. I still have oh shit moments every day. So yeah, I would say cautiously, maybe, kind of, and hopefully more in the future.
Well, then let me follow up with this then. What are some of your personal goals then, if you can share?
So I want to, in 2017, be able to move out of New Jersey, if possible, to maybe do half the year in Florida, because I have a chronic pain condition that makes my daily life pretty excruciating up here. And I refuse to take like prescription drugs and that, because that stuff can be addictive, and they may not even want to give it to me anyway. I mean, even though it's obvious that, if you look at my x-rays, my joints are just like, crazy bad. I had a thing where in the 90s a doctor took my feet and stuff apart and reassembled them kind of the wrong way. So it's very clear that I am under a lot of pain in an x-ray, but it's very hard to manage. And in the cold, it gets, once it gets under 55 degrees, I can, I may even like cry. It's so bad. Like, that's how bad it is. So I want to be able to move out of New Jersey. That's, I think, my goal. That's when I'll be like, yep, I'm doing pretty good, because New Jersey is very, very bad for some things, and it's very good for other things. And what it's good for is my industry and job opportunities. I don't really have too much to worry about when it comes to getting jobs. I did have a period there that it was a little longer and a little scarier than I wanted, because I was switching from IT into marketing. That was like about a year ago. I think you probably remember that, where it was like, I think I was unemployed for almost like 6 months, and that's like crazy for me. But now it's not so bad, but still, I just don't like having to be anchored to a geographic location where the best I can afford to live in is an apartment. Even if you're making like 6 figures, you're still in an apartment in New Jersey, for the most part.
That's crazy. I can't believe that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, the houses here are, the tax is insane, and you'll get such a small house that it's ridiculous. Most people my age get a condo, and they call it a house, and it looks like a nice apartment, and they're paying like at least $300,000 for it. They don't have a backyard. They're not allowed to barbecue. There's all these restrictions on it. It's just, I just want a nice place to live that is a house. That's not that's not like a teeny weeny little thing.
How do you deal with your failures?
I kind of think I try to think about what I can do to turn them into a positive. I look at failures as building blocks that build better things, because really there's a lot of stuff I mess up on a daily basis. And even my staff, they're like, "Oh my God, I messed something up." I'm like, "It's fine, whatever. So what did we learn from it? Let's see where we can go with it." Um, I haven't had, I've had a lot of, it's I'm trying to think of something that I've really screwed up that I've just kind of let derail me. I mean, usually when I lose a day job, like that derails me a little bit, and I try to basically not focus on it. It's kind of like that phrase I use a lot, which I can't take credit for. It's from shit my dad says. It's you don't put your picnic blanket up to the biggest pile of dog shit. And it's that way when I used to think of that when I would deal with another webcomic artist that was maybe a complete asshole. And I think that way when it comes to failures or anything unpleasant. You don't put your picnic blanket up to next to the dog shit, and you just move forward. So that's how I try to think about it,
Good stuff.
And I also talk too with friends. Like I'm definitely somebody that likes talking through problems. Not as much as Harknell. He really talks through problems. I will. Well, we're probably equally matched that way, actually.
Sorry, I'm just trying to word this. I've worded it so many times, but the way I've worded it most consistently, I should say, is the younger generation. They're looking at you and they're becoming inspired by what you're doing, what you're accomplishing. How can they inspire the generation that follows them?
I would say just be yourself. Don't try to fit into, like, I could tell you what doesn't inspire me, and it's basically, you see a lot of some bloggers out there where every photo on their blog or everything they do looks like something out of Vogue magazine. They're usually kind of a silent, paid-off person from a marketing company. Mm-hmm. I think that my current job, there's a lot of like heavy metal guys at it, and we hit it off in the interviews of my love for metal. And we always joke, metal recognizes metal, real recognizes real. And I think just be real, just be yourself, be imperfect, be be stupid, be weird, and you don't have to be like a size 2. You don't have to be, anything. You don't have to have any certain thing, because mainstream media is controlled by 65-year-old white dudes. So just be yourself, because you don't need to put up with that shit on the internet. That's what I would say. Because I never set out to inspire anybody, and I was surprised as hell that people felt that way. And all I was doing is just like, doing my own thing, wearing a box on my head, that kind of thing. I don't know if you've seen that picture of me with the box on my head that has become a meme.
No, I have to see that.
I'll tag you in it. It's from Intervention 4, where I was so tired on Sunday, I just put a box on my head and started making weird sounds parading around the con floor, and people were like, "What's going on?"
When the Onezumi memes start.
Yeah, because I think that's only about 3 weeks old. One of my staffers created it, and now every time I say something weird, people keep posting that image up.
Oh, that's awesome. That's good stuff. Let's see. It's amazing how much time flies with you, because it's always fun. It's a great conversation and all that fun stuff there. Is there anything that I haven't brought up that you'd like those that are watching and listening to this to know about?
Well, if no matter where you are, even if you're not going to my events, always support smaller events. People always ask me, "Oh, can you get Dave Tennant? Can you get Matt Smith?" Support the smaller event. Oh, I forgot that I even talked about it. Honestly, I'm so tired. But support the smaller cons, because the smaller cons are really usually struggling. They're usually operating on a very small budget, and a lot of the bigger stars and the bigger things are, some people it costs 6 figures or more just to get them at your event for 3 days.
That's crazy.
And that's actually the norm. I actually got a quote for somebody I was trying to get at Intervention. He wanted $75,000 for 1 hour of his time for one talk, which is prohibitive. Yeah, it's prohibitive. So, I mean, these are like your major stars that are on TV now. That's how much they pull. And Small events can't really support that, but your bigger corporate events can. There is a thing where a lot of them will move opposite smaller events to put them out of business. So one thing I would say for everyone to take away is if you see a smaller con, try to support them. If you don't like what they're doing, don't yell at them. Like, talk to them first, and if they're receptive to it, join staff. Be the change that you want to see. Most of the cons throughout the entire world probably need extra people. They need more skill sets. It's not just me. I'm talking about everybody. I talk to people who run cons in like Kansas, in California. A lot of us are friends, and they all share the same struggle. They have a smaller budget. The attendees want certain things, and they're having trouble getting people signing on. So wherever you live, look for your local event and get involved. You'll meet friends and go through a really crazy time for 3 days at least.
It's funny you bring up the smaller cons because Windsor just started their own convention called. It was originally called Christmas Comic Con, but it's now just called C3. It's just a one-day event, which is usually the first weekend in December, actually, for a single day. And they started it 3 years ago. They're going to their 4th year, and the very first time, sorry, let me put this in perspective. The last convention, comic convention specifically, that Windsor, Ontario had was 22 years ago. So,
oh, wow.
So you figured that large of a gap of time that a convention like this would be that popular. Well, they were in a 600 square foot building, and they were expecting maybe a couple hundred people. I was doing some press for them too. They got over 2,000 people coming through the door in a 6-hour event.
I can imagine what that staff felt like, because it's very stressful but awesome. You'd be like, oh my God!
It was incredible, truly it was. And then they've been building that up slowly throughout the years too. So they even had the weather wizard from the Flash TV show and the original voice of Hermie from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was on.
Oh, that's cool.
Too. So it's like you said, small conventions. If you build up enough of a following, you can do very well, or at least start to get very well.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, Ani, I know you're hungry. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this show as always, and I'll let you get some dinner going on, or a cheese sandwich or whatever.
Cheese! Cheese is amazing. Every time I go to a diner, I'm like, I want some mozzarella sticks, man.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go and get some now, or make my own.
They love me. They love me at this one diner. We order like $10 of food and tip $20. So it's because we have a diner that we really like, and again, we being business owners, we believe in really supporting people that or do good stuff, and we have a particular waitress that is really awesome, and she got blinded in one eye by an accident a few weeks ago, and so now she gets $20 tips from us.
That's great to hear. Well, it's horrible to hear that she had an eye injury, but it's great to hear that you're helping her in any small way that you can.
Yeah.
Well, thanks once more. I gotta say though, the website, because I don't think I've even pitched the website, which I really should, or I should actually. You know what? I'll let you pitch your own website and contact info there.
Okay, cool. So ReGeneration Who is ReGenerationWho.com. It is March 27th through 29th in Hunt Valley, it's also called Cockeysville, but Hunt Valley, because it sounds more palatable to more people. I was getting complaints because we use the Cockeysville. Hunt Valley, Maryland. We're going to have, Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy, Sophie Aldred. We're going to have, who else? Patricia Quinn from Rocky Horror Picture Show. We're going to have Terry Malloy, who played Davros. We're having about 20 other actors, too, that I don't have time to mention, and scriptwriters, and we're going to have demos of amazing things and cosplay, and it's going to be great. So please come. Please support our con, and please tell people about it. Oh, and we actually got Tom Baker to Skype in to support us, which was a no small feat that no other convention has ever been able to pull off. So that may be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And that's going to be the con Saturday, 12 to 1. And there's at least 20 people working in that panel, and it's going to have more crazy stage blocking than a Lady Gaga show. So it's sure to be interesting. That's one way to put it, because it's going to go well, but it's sure to be interesting for me on the logistical side.
Oh, I like anything that you do. I'm sure you, Harknell, and your amazing staff will be incredible as always, as friendly as always, and have a fun time in general. So good, best of luck to everyone there.
Yep, that's the plan. Awesome. Thank you so much.
No problem. And just to close up here, thanks everyone for watching this particular episode and listening to this show on iTunes. Of course, you can see this work and everything else on our website, which is twogeekstalking.com. That's the word two, not the number two, like it shows right there. See, two geeks talking there. Perfect. Good. Or tgtmedia.com. Of course, my Twitter handle, pretty much on my social media handle, pretty much on everything is at Kurt Sasso. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook is something else. But other than that, I'm available for interviews and or other aspects as well too. And if you want to be on the show, go to the website tgtmedia.com and go to suggest interview, and you could be on this show like Oni was here and like everyone else, and 7 years of content in the archive as well too. So thanks everyone for listening and watching. Tune in next week for another great, talented, and creative person on Two Geeks Talking. See ya.